I want to talk about why the Mormon Church is true and also why it's not true. And I've said this about every religion, that every religion has some truth and that every religion has its falsities as well. And the Mormon Church, I say this as someone I was born in the Mormon Church, 26 years old. I'm still Mormon. I still claim the heritage, but I haven't gone to church in a while. But the teachings of the Mormon Church are remarkably close to what is starting to come out about the science of consciousness, the journey of the soul from this life to the next. If you look at the teachings of people like Dolores Cannon, I've seen her come up a lot on YouTube, Eckhart Tolle, others, they talk about the journey of the soul and how this earth is a school for learning. And then when we go back, we go back into the spirit realm where that's our natural state as souls, as spirits. And then we incarnate back into different lives, whether in this school or another. And that's remarkably close to what the Mormons actually believe about the journey of the soul. Now, there's three things that I think the Mormon Church gets right. And one of them I talked about in a video yesterday. You can go and watch that, about the Book of Mormon and how it lays out exactly what is happening in our nation right now, where because of secret combinations and corruption and among the ruling class, there's a lot of truths that are being hidden, and all that's going to break, all that's going to crumble, and Christ is going to come again. So, and I laid that out in the video. You can go watch that. So that's one of the things that the Mormons get remarkably close. Another thing that they get is what I was just talking about with the journey of the soul. I think it's crazy how Christians are so quick to dismiss what the Mormons believe about the soul and what happens to it. Because in classical Christianity, we're created at conception, we come into this world, and then you either go to heaven or hell for eternity. And I just can't believe in a God that would do that. But Mormons are different. Joseph Smith, he was like, wait, no, actually, we've always existed. We've existed as intelligent spirits before this life. Then we come to this life as a school to learn and grow and develop. We return back to the spirit realm after we die. And then after that, we go into what he called another kingdom. There are three that he laid out: telestial, terrestrial, celestial. But essentially, you just go into another school of learning. And that's this, and lays it out as this cosmic school of eternal progress and growth, right? And that's way more something I'm inclined to believe in, is that we go from this life to the next, and we learn and we develop and we grow. Now, I think what Mormons miss is that they believe that it's a resurrection where eventually we're going to have our same bodies back and go into one of these kingdoms after the spirit realm to live forever. But I don't think that's the case. I believe that we are reincarnated, which is very similar. Resurrection is just coming from, your spirit back into a body. I mean, that's essentially what reincarnation is, right? So that happens from life to life. It says in Mormon teachings that right now we are in this telestial world, is what Joseph Smith called it. And we're learning what we need to here, after which we can progress to another degree of learning, graduate to the next class, to either terrestrial, celestial, or anything in between, whatever else there is. God is eternal, so I don't limit him. But I believe that's true, and the Mormons get it right. The third thing that I believe Mormons get right is the natural structure of the order of how our societies will look in the future. So Joseph Smith, in his time, they came up with this hierarchical structure of how they were going to live, basically like this self-sustaining citadel that the Mormons would live in. And you see this with the Mormons were settling and moving from place to place. They were very good at creating these self-sustaining communities. And they were pretty much separate from the government. And that's why I would say that's probably why a lot of people didn't like them, is because they were so good at what they did and they challenged the authority of the government in that way. Now over time, Mormons had to integrate into society, so they weren't able, basically the way they were trying to live was not compatible with how the rest of the world's living. But I believe in the future, it's interesting, I've seen some NDEs where people talk about how they saw the future, and we're not going to have this giant government that's trying to take care of all 300 million of us. We're going to live in these decentralized citadels or communities that are totally self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and that's the natural order. I mean, once this government defuses and dissolves, what's going to come out of it is a bunch of small communities organically working together to be completely self-sufficient and self-sustaining, and we won't have to depend on the government, because at that time we're all going to be living naturally from love, and it's going to be peace on earth, and it's going to be lovely. But anyways, the point I'm getting to with that is the Mormons were right in what they were trying to do, and the structure that they were trying to build, it just wasn't compatible with this current system that we live in, so it's kind of been pushed to the side. But you're going to see in the coming decades that that's more what it's going to look like is self-sustaining citadels. The Mormons call them stakes and wards, but that's what it's going to look like. Now, the thing that the Mormons get wrong, because I don't believe that the Mormon church is completely true, I think that they box in God in believing that you have to receive these certain ordinances or live a certain way or obey certain commandments in order to get into the most desirable type of heaven. And I don't think that's the way God is. I think God is much more, God is just all that is. God is just the substance of reality. God is just the substance of existence. And any name that you assign to God is true. And what the Mormon church gets wrong is, I think a lot of the time they don't let people just be who they are. There is this sort of conformity or control that is required to receive all that they say you can receive by following their teachings or ways. And I think the world that we're going to enter over the next century is one where everyone is able to be who they are. They're able to resonate as their natural self, and there won't be these systems of control and structure in place to kind of make people follow a certain agenda or whatever it is. And so I think that the Mormon church does fall short in that way, where they don't let people just be who they are. And many religions do. Islam, lots of control and brainwashing there. And I'm not an authority on Islam at all. I don't know what to say there. But those are just some of my thoughts as a Mormon for most of my life. I think it's true and I think it's not true at the same time. And if you're still watching this, I'm talking to you, the one person still watching this right now. I would love if you would subscribe and like this video, maybe even share it. I have a lot more to say, and I appreciate you being with me on this journey. I know my speech will become more eloquent over time, and I'll be able to communicate these ideas more effectively, but I appreciate you being here with me on this journey. So thank you.